Alright, so what we're going to talk about now, ITC111, is the bottom of the Canada Customs invoice. Now, up until now, when you filled out the Canada Customs invoice or you're given any particular Canada Customs invoice, you'll notice that field 22, this box, was checked. And it says, if fields 23, 25 are not applicable, check this box. So we've been checking this box because these fields 23, 24, and 25 have not been applicable. But we want to talk about what happens when this box is not checked. Okay, such as in this particular situation here. This is Canada Customs invoice. You're going to be making a B3 on this particular week. You'll notice down at the bottom, it says that field 22 is not checked. And you'll also notice that one of the fields down here, field 23I, is completed and it has an amount in there. So what we're going to talk about this week are what these fields mean and what you're going to do with them. Okay? So let's talk about field 22, what we just talked about. If fields 23 and 25 are not applicable, we check that box. And before, we did check that box. Okay? So, next field, field 23. Okay? If field 22 is not checked and field 23 is completed, let's read what field 23I says. It says, if included in field 17 is the invoice total. And you'll notice all this talks about field 17. If included in field 17, indicate amount of transportation charges, expenses, and insurance from the place of direct shipment to Canada. What this means is, if included in this price, there is a transportation charge, we need to put the amount down here. Okay? So, for instance, when you buy something off of Amazon, you pay one price. Okay? That price includes the goods, and the price also includes getting the goods to you. You pay one price. But in real world, this price here is for two items. It is for the goods, and it's for the freight. So if there's freight included in field 17, we put it in 23I. Now, field 23I, if the following charges are included in the invoice, indicate transportation charges, expenses, and insurance from the place of direct shipment to Canada. So let's say we have shipment from Indiana to Toronto, which is actually our example. Okay, shipments from Indiana coming to Mississauga. And we have international freight. Okay. If the freight is included in the selling price, meaning the person in Canada is paying one price, that price includes the goods and the freight in one amount. We indicate that amount in field 23I, and we will be deducting that amount from field 23I because due to Canada Customs regulations, you don't have to pay duty on the international freight. So if it's a shipment like this one, there's the freight charge is separate, meaning someone else is paying it and it isn't included in the price. So we just pay duty on this $8,460. But in this particular example, the freight is included in the $53,025 and we can deduct that freight amount from this amount and only pay duty on the lesser amount. Okay. Field 23II, which is this one. If included in field 17, indicate the amounts of cost for construction, erection, and assembly incurred after importation into Canada. So what this means is, if you buy something and it includes installation, meaning you buy a a machine for your assembly line of your company. And part of it included in the price is one of their technicians coming to Canada, or a technician in Canada coming to your location to help you install the machine and get it working. Well, in that particular case, if you indicate the amount here, field 23I, we can deduct it from field 17 because we don't have to pay duty on installation costs. So, in review, field 23I, international transportation charge, if it is included in the price, we can deduct it. Field 23II, installation costs, if it's included in field 17, we can deduct it. I've given you on Blackboard this particular Canada Customs invoice, which is blank. And each field in field 23I and field 24 indicate what you do with these amounts. So we just did 23I and 23II, and both of them say deduct this amount from field 17 from the invoice total. All right. Let's talk about field 23III, export packing. If there's an amount in here, we ignore. We do nothing with the amount. It is for CBSA information purposes only. You have to pay duty on export packing. So if it's included in field 17, we have to keep it there because we have to pay duty on it. But Customs would like to know how much that amount is. So these amounts to be ignored. They are not to be added or deducted from field 17. They are for a declaration for information purposes only. Let's move on to field 24. Now field 24 is a little different. In field 23 it says if included in field 17. Field 24 says if not included in field 17. So the difference between this 23 and 24 is these amounts are included in the price. In field 24, these amounts are not included in the price. And for each one of these three, we have to add this amount to field 17. So let's go through the field 24I. It says if not included in field 17, field 24I, if not included in field 17, indicate the transportation charges and expenses and insurance to the place of direct shipment to Canada. Notice field 23 says from the place of direct shipment. This one says to the place of direct shipment. So let's show you what that means. So we have a shipment from Indiana to Toronto. Okay. The freight cost to get it from Indiana to Toronto across the Canadian border, this is the border, is international freight. But if there's an amount to get it from California to Indiana, this is the place of direct shipment. If that amount is not included in this price, they have to put it in field 24I, and we add it to field 17 because the duty must be paid on it. So we will be adding this amount. So it's the amount of the freight charge to get it from California to Indiana. Now this is very rare. And the reason why it's rare is when if you're selling these goods to someone in Toronto, you want to make sure you have all your costs included. And most of the time that cost is included in this field. But occasionally you might see something in field 24I. If you do, we have to add this amount to field 17 before we do the B3, by the way. These things we do while we're doing the B3 before we calculate the duties and taxes. All right, let's talk about field 24II. Amounts for commissions other than buying commissions. So field 24 is if you paid somebody in another country to purchase goods for you, to find the goods and to purchase the goods, and you paid a company or a person in another country to do that work, you have to put the amount in here because you have to pay duty on that amount. Field 24 III is export packing. If the export packing is not included in field 17, we have to add it to field 17 and pay duty on it. Now, we're going to talk about field 25 just quickly, but we're not going to be doing it in this particular class, but it's interesting to know what those are. Field 25I is royalty payments or subsequent proceeds. So let's talk about what royalty payments are. If you buy something okay? And you're paying two people for that good. You're paying one person to manufacture it, but you're paying another person for the right to use that good. And the best example I use is the Disney Corporation. The Disney Corporation, if you have a shipment coming and it's Mulan action figures. So you're paying a company in China to manufacture those items, but you're also paying Disney Corporation a royalty for the right to sell, the right to import and sell one of their copyrighted figurines. Then that's two payments. So if there's royalties being paid, we have to check this box. We don't do anything with it, but we check this box. Subsequent proceeds means if we're going to sell this good at a later date, okay, the good that's listed on the Canada Customs invoice, if we're going to sell it at a later date and we're going to get money for it, we have to indicate that here by checking the box. We don't give any amounts or anything, we just check the box. These are kind of declaration only. Field 25II is the purchaser has supplied goods or services for use in the production of these goods. So the importer has given the manufacturer design drawings, maybe molds to help make the good, some assistance in producing the good. We have to check this box and tell customs that we're doing that. But we don't have to worry about changing field 17. The only time we change field 17 is when an amount is in these two fields, okay, where we're going to deduct those amounts from field 17 and pay less duty, or there's an amount in these three fields where we have to add it to this amount and pay duty on it. Okay, so if we are going to make an adjustment to field 17 of the CCI, it affects the B3, obviously. And we have to indicate, tell customs that we have made an adjustment. So, if we make an adjustment to subtract or add from field 17 of the CCI, the value for duty code in field 31 of the B3 no longer is 13 if the vendor and the importer are not related, or 23 if the vendor and the importer are related. So, if we go to the B3, field 31 is right here, value for duty code. So if we make an adjustment to field 17 of the Canada Customs invoice, which is going to change the value for currency conversion, then the number can no longer be 13 or 23. The second digit becomes a 4. So 14 if the vendor and the importer are not related, or 24 if the vendor and the importer are related. So the number would be 14 if they're not related, or 24 if they are related. Okay? So let's talk about the assignment you're going to do this week. This area of the course is very difficult for students. They tend to get a little bit confused. So I'm trying to break this down into small chunks. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to do a B3. This is a very simple B3. It's one item, so it's going to be one page. Okay, you've got all the information you need, but there's one difference here. The difference is you got this box not checked. So field 22 is not checked, which means these fields could be applicable. And the field that is applicable is field 23I, transportation charges from the place of direct shipment to Canada, and there's $3,000 in there. So remember, what we said is if there's an amount in here, you deduct this amount from field 17. Okay, so we subtract this amount from field 17. So, field 17 is $52,025. So we're going to be deducting $3,000 from that and only paying duty on what the amount is, this minus this. And when you make your B3, you're going to put 14 or 24 in field 31 to indicate to customs that, hey, the amount in here is different than the amount on the Canada Customs invoice because it's going to be a lower amount. So all you're doing is indicating to Customs that you made a change, that you deducted an amount from here, or if you have to add, that you've added an amount from there. But this time you're going to be deducting because it says right here, deduct this amount from field 17. That's all I want you to do. I don't want you to worry about, you don't have to fill out the CCI. All you have to do is read this, read the instruction here, what you do when you see an amount down here, and do it. Okay? And this says you deduct it from field 17. You've got an amount here, deduct it from field 17. And on the B3, the amount you're going to put in the value for currency conversion is going to be this amount minus $3,000. You don't put $53,025 minus $3,000. You put the answer in here. And then calculate the duty and the taxes and the value for tax and GST just like you do normal. And make sure your value for duty code is 14 or 24, depending upon whether they're related or not. And that information is on the Canada Customs invoice. Okay? So this is very simple. There's only one item, so it's straight deduction. So it's going to be straight subtraction. Okay? Now, the only other thing that's a little bit different here, it says, note, there's a CUSMA certificate on file for this item. Okay, so when you go to the customs tariff, you're going to pay the CUSMA duty rate. And remember, the duty rate on any free trade agreement is in the name of the free trade agreement. And that name is free. It's a beautiful thing. Now remember, don't put free, put 0.00, but just the same, there's a CUSMA certificate, so you got to make sure that you put the right duty rate, okay, which goes in here, and make sure you put the right tariff treatment. This shipment's from the United States, so it should be very simple. Okay, just be careful that you make sure you put the right, the right code for USA. You don't put USA, you put U, and then the state code, and those are in your book, your how to fill out the B3 book. Okay, so the main thing to do here is remember that you have to take this amount, subtract, because this says deduct this amount from field 17. Okay, and you're going to put the answer in field 36, and then calculate duties as is going on. Make sure you put in the right value for duty code and the right tariff treatment and the right duty rate, because this item qualifies for CUSMA. Okay, so I'm leaving you to a little bit on your own devices here because you're going to have to fill out the rest of it, but I've given you how to do it. The reason why I'm doing this in 2 easy chunks is, as I explained in the greeting video, the difficulty comes when you have more than one item. When you've got different items on your Canada Customs invoice and you have to make a deduction, you have to spread that amount over the items in the CCI. But this CCI only has one item, so it's a straight subtraction. Okay, we'll talk about that other stuff next week. If you could, I've also given you a link to some videos about fields 23 to 25 that are, one, good for reviewing that particular subject. Okay, these are videos from a couple of years ago, and it gives instructions on how to do what we're going to be doing next week. So if you have some time, that would be really great if you could look at that and hopefully help you get a leg up on next week. So get this B3 done, okay, and make sure you follow my instructions, and make sure that you put the right value in, make sure you put the right duty rate and the right tariff treatment, and you should be good to go. And we'll talk to you next week. If you have any questions, by the way, make sure you ask me.